what's the intention of having your own business? Is it to create a life-work balance that makes sense to you? Or is it to kind of, have this, I got to get the clients no matter what? And I think different people have different perspectives around that.
I think the first option sounds much better.
I agree.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schuessler. This week, I'm talking to Olga Rocklin, a private practice entrepreneur in San Francisco. Olga specializes in working with teens, young adults, and people healing from eating disorders. Listen as she talks about how she figures out and then holds boundaries so that her practice is a joy to run. Welcome, Olga. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I knew that I wanted to have you come and be in the clubhouse, like before the clubhouse existed. And I'm thinking of this as almost like a continuation of a conversation that we were having in a coffee shop back a number of months ago. So, but since everybody else wasn't there for that, I will catch them up a little bit. So one thing we talked about was professional boundaries. And so before we jump into talking about your private practice, can you tell us a little bit about how setting and holding boundaries help you in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like one of the things that seems really important for me as a business owner is to separate my professional life from my personal life. I think it can really easily become all-encompassing, and doing things in the evenings and on the weekends and that sort of thing. And so very early on, when I was even kind of envisioning and conceptualizing having my own therapy business, that I knew that it was really important to set my hours and stick to them and really have, when I'm off, I'm off. And, so when I'm done with clients at, whatever time I'm done at the end of the day, like I don't check my work phone and my work email. And so that's been it's really restful, I think. And that's really, I think it helps me then be available and have maybe even more creativity about how to run my business.
Can you tell us about that creativity?
Yeah, I think it's kind of having that, I read somewhere in some research studies not too long ago that say kind of, time away from work and doing things really unrelated to your professional life can really kind of foster ideas and development in a different way. So I feel like, we're always churning stuff in some way. And so if I'm completely doing something unrelated, I might be walking down the street and then, I had an idea pop up about, a book I might want to write at some point. And it was just, I was walking my dog, I think. And it just kind of like, oh, hey, this might be kind of cool. So I feel like that time away, that restorativeness is helpful in, how I approach sometimes my networking, some marketing, like, oh, I haven't done this, maybe I'll do this. And so just kind of being, I think, more open to the ideas that can arise.
Yeah. And we've got to take space to let those ideas bubble up.
Totally.
Absolutely. So tell us about your practice. How long have you been in private practice?
So I've been in my practice for about 3 years.
And what's your business model? You, I know you run mindfulness-based stress reduction groups.
Yeah, occasionally I offer mindfulness-based stress reduction groups, and I work mostly with individuals. And I say mostly because I work with teens, so sometimes I have families come in. But my practice is mostly built on one-on-one or family therapy.
Okay, how did you choose your niche?
So I have kind of a couple of pockets of populations I'm really interested in working with, and I've really stuck to that. And they're really different. But so I in all the counseling related work I've ever done, I've always really liked adolescents and young adults. And so I knew that was something that I wanted to continue and keep in my practice. And it's still true. I absolutely adore working with teens and young adults. I just like the energy and kind of being able to talk in a way to teens that sometimes isn't available for adults because they can just kind of, they see through BS and can call you on it, and I think appreciate it the other way. So that's been, throughout my career development, I just knew that's a population I adore. And then I also work with teens and adults who have eating disorders. And that just kind of popped up as an interest of mine, also early in my career. And I ended up having opportunities to work in a residential treatment center with people with eating disorders and got a tremendous amount of training there. And really enjoy the work. It's challenging, it's difficult, and I also kind of have stayed with it throughout my career so far. And then mindfulness came into my life as a personal practice. And, I just personally have found such benefit from having my own practice, from learning about mindfulness meditation and mindfulness-based stress reduction. And I thought, if there's something I'm so deeply moved by personally, can I incorporate this into my professional work? And so then I followed that path and got trained as an MBSR teacher.
So when you do the MBSR, how many weeks is it?
It's an 8-week class.
And you do that whole thing, right?
I do the whole thing, but I do every single one of my clients. There's some mindfulness practice that happens every one of their sessions. So it's something that I really incorporate in all of my work.
And so that's kind of a thread running through everything you do, kind of uniting your work.
Yes.
Do you sometimes have your individual clients take your course?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, it's not necessarily, it's offered to anyone in the community. It's not a therapy group. It's more of a class. And so, but I've had clients go through it.
And I'm wondering, for you, the eating disorder work is pretty intense, like you said. Do you kind of by design have a balance of that work and work that's not eating disorders focused?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would probably have a quarter to a third of my practice be people with an active eating disorder. And then the rest of my practice be either somebody further in recovery or dealing with other challenges right now in their lives. And having come from training where all I did was eating disorder work and just feeling so just tired, honestly, at the end of the week, I just figured I can't just work with eating disorder clients all the time. Some people do that and that works for them, but I like the diversity of who I work with.
I'm thinking too, for reaching out to clients and helping them find you, you're in this interesting position where you're working with young adults and teens a lot, and those two groups, like they have to find you in different ways, because I'm imagining the parents are often the ones who find you first for the teens. Is that the case, or do they find you themselves?
It's been a mix. For most teens I've seen, it's usually a parent that will reach out. I've had a couple of older teens, like 17, 18 years old, that will actually find me themselves, which I think is super cool. And, I just love their motivation to want to get support. And then young adults that also, if they're college age, sometimes a parent will call or email me, and then, we have the conversation of, your adult kid is an adult, so they need to call me. I work with the parents around that and with their young adult also. But I think it is in different ways. I'm fairly sure, and a few of my teens have said this, that, they check me out and see, like, am I on social media? What am I posting? Do I know what Snapchat is? That's important.
Yeah. And what are you doing on social media?
So I have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google Plus, although it's kind of, I don't know if anyone uses Google Plus, but my main social media places are Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then occasionally I put a blog on my website, and I just post, coping skill ideas for really anyone of any age. Sometimes links to interesting articles or videos that I see. Sometimes a quote that I think someone might find inspiring that maybe comes out of a theme of what I've seen in my practice with clients in the week.
How often are you on there, on those different platforms?
I try to post something at least once a week. I feel like with Twitter, it's probably a really good idea to post multiple times a day. I just don't think that's realistic for me at this point. But so I try to post something at least once a week. Ideally twice, but once a week is my goal right now.
Have you ever tried a service like Edgar or Buffer or Hootsuite, any of those kinds of things?
I haven't, because I try to post. So I like variety in all areas of my life. So I have this idea of like, I post different things on all the sites. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't actually know, I haven't researched enough to see if like one of those services I can post different things and then they'll just post it on my behalf.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I'm using Edgar now and I'm really loving it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it feels very intuitive.
Okay. I'll check that out.
Is your Instagram use similar to the others, or does it feel like your Instagram is more personal?
So I actually have a personal Instagram and a professional Instagram, and my personal one is private, and then my professional one is public. And they're different. I don't post like pictures of my family on my professional one, whereas I do on my personal one. But my dog makes it to my professional one sometimes. But yeah, Instagram's a little bit different in that, it's pictures, but I sometimes will put quotes on there too. I have like a quote generator app thing that I use. So yeah.
Cool. What app do you use?
I think it's called InstaQuote.
Okay.
And it just, you type in and then it has a little space where you put the author, and then you can literally from there export it to Instagram, and I think Facebook if you want to do that too. So it's pretty easy.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
What's your practice like? How many sessions a week do you like to have in your private practice?
It's a great question. So it depends on what else I'm doing professionally. Right now, I'm wearing a few different hats in my professional life. So I'm a business owner, therapist. I'm involved with the local professional organization in San Francisco, and then I'm a supervisor for pre-licensed therapists. So my weeks are quite busy. So right now, it's a little bit. My full is probably about. It feels like 17, 18 is like max with the other stuff I'm doing. When I wasn't involved with the other aspects, I think I got up to like where 20 to 22 felt good.
Is there anything there with number per day or times of day that you like to work or not work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is back to my boundaries question, or your boundaries question. So I don't function well in the work world in the mornings. Mm. And I'm up early, but I like to kind of ease into my day. So I don't start seeing clients. My earliest appointment is 11 in the morning. And I work till 6 or 7 or 8, depending on the day. And I just from the get-go was like, this is my time. And I've had clients call, potential clients and ask for, can I come in at, do you have anything earlier? And, right away I was like, I'm sorry, I don't. I'm happy to refer you to other people. And it was really having that confidence that the right people will come, that I will fill my 2, 3, 4 o'clock slots, which I have. And so that's as far as just scheduling. That works for me. I know some people that are like, I love seeing people at 7 in the morning and being done by 3. And that horrifies me.
But yeah, if we're not going to choose the hours that we really feel best working, why are we even having our own businesses?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think most, if not all of us, when we're in training, I did school-based counseling where I was at the school site at 8:30 in the morning, and it was not, I was like, I don't particularly want to keep doing this my whole life, and other agencies. So yeah, I think that's really important to kind of, what's the intention of having your own business? Is it to create a life-work balance that makes sense to you? Or is it to kind of, have this, I got to get the clients no matter what? And I think different people have different perspectives around that.
I think the first option sounds much better.
I agree. I agree. And then as far as how many people a day, I'll see up to 7 clients a day. And that's like if someone needs to reschedule, 6 is typically my max. And I love to have a break every couple hours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I might work from like 11 to 7, but I see 2 clients, then I have a break, and then I see 2 clients, then I have a break, and then I see 2 clients. And so that allows me, then I have lunch in a leisurely way. I might go for a walk, do some bookkeeping, business building, taking care of, put that hat on for an hour or so, and it helps me feel balanced.
Nice. So you're never like powering through. You're staying in touch with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I'll see, three people is okay. I think this week somebody needed to come in, and there was one time that just worked, and I ended up seeing 4 people in a row, which I hadn't done in a long time, and I was really aware of that. That's not ideal for me.
It's interesting. I remember like years and years ago, I used to have this different mindset where I knew that it was optimal for me to have 3 in a row or less. Mm-hmm. And then I could take a break and then have more sessions. And then I remember having days set up that way. But then if someone needed to come in, I would sometimes, or quite often, book that break. And so in that way, I would end up having like 6 or 7 in a row because I had, compromised on that. And I just feel so much lighter and more grounded at the same time with sticking to my boundaries now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm digital in a lot of ways, but I have a paper calendar for clients. And so it's a weekly calendar that, I open up, and it's just easier for me to kind of visually see my week. And I cross off my breaks with a different colored pen so that if somebody asks me, oh, can I come in, Wednesday at 3? And I can just look at my calendar and I'm like, no, I don't have that time available.
Okay. That's really different than leaving it blank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, because I think like similarly to what you were saying, Annie, was like, if it was blank, well, I could fit something in here, or someone can come in, or I could schedule something. And then I just, if there is something, like if I have coffee with somebody, I'll write it in, but it is still crossed off from like client times.
And what do you charge?
My current fee is $140.
What's that journey been like from where you started to now?
Yeah, so I've raised my fee once so far in 3 years. It feels, I feel really comfortable with where I am with my fee and with raising it as I have, with lots of feedback that I got starting out, and figuring out what makes sense to me financially to live a comfortable life. I came up with what works, and then am raising it a little bit every couple of years.
Yeah. Do you have a fee raise coming?
I don't. I just raised my fees in January. And it was that process, I think a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, I've talked to a lot of colleagues about it. And I just, I think for me, it was, I put my business owner hat on, and like everything goes up in prices because that's the life we live. And so I just told my clients very nonchalantly that, my fees are going up as of the 1st, and, we can have a conversation about it, and no one had an issue with it.
And do you think that's because you were so comfortable with it?
I think so. And I wasn't, this may be something that I heard you talk about at some point, but but maybe not, when like stating your fee as a statement and not a question.
Yes. Yep. I definitely say that a lot.
Yeah. And so I think I just, I had a little handout for them to sign, and I just said, hey, just want to let you know my fee's going up, as of the 1st.
Mm-hmm. And no, of the 1st? Yeah.
Right. Or is that okay with you?
Yeah.
And really, I think empowering my client that if it's an issue, they, we have a good relationship in that they can tell me if it's problematic. Like I trust my clients to do that.
And Olga, have you ever had, at any point in your private practice, have you ever had a low or scary moment as a business owner?
Low or scary? I think scary, no, thankfully. I think when I was first starting out, about 4 months in, I felt like I was working really, really hard and not having a lot of return on my investment, so to speak. Not a lot of clients were coming in. And I was just like, I don't know if I should keep doing this. Lots of doubt came up. And I feel like that was pretty low, and
Mm-hmm.
I was, talking with my parents and my partner about, should I just kind of give up? I don't know. I've done all this legwork and like it's not, nothing's happening. And I remember it was like the end of November and everyone kind of gave me feedback, like my family gave me feedback of like, why don't you just kind of relax in December? And if, by maybe reevaluate at the end of January or something, when you like come back in January, like, hit the ground running as you have been and reevaluate in January if things don't work out and, reassess or whatever. And I did. I kind of took it easy that month. And then I came back in January and the phone started ringing and my practice was full within like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, wow. And how long had it felt like it was dipping or not building fast enough?
Oh, I see. I started in July and this was November. So like 4 months maybe.
Yeah. So it really helped to have those people to ground you and kind of check in with you and be a reality check.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having the support of, and validation that, yes, I was working hard and that this takes time and, that I can't kind of force my way into being a successful business owner, that it's got to come and it's when it does.
Mm-hmm. And you were planting all these seeds. And that's actually, you did really impact that happening sooner than it might have. A lot sooner. I mean, July over to the spring, it's less than a year. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think that's such a dance between figuring out like how much energy you can put in and how many seeds you can plant. And then also to some degree, letting go of the outcome of every particular seed, but just having the faith and knowing, yeah, it's going to grow, but I can't control exactly what month it's going to happen in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When did you know, was there a particular moment when you knew that it was time to start the mindfulness-based stress reduction group?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I felt like my practice was in a place that felt full enough, and then I could shift my energy into focusing on a different aspect of it.
There's enough stability to kind of pull from.
Right. So I could kind of shift my attention onto, I'm not a very good multitasker. So I kind of dedicate times to doing things in my day. And so this was kind of like, okay, practice is sustaining itself. And it seems like I have a system that's working for now. So now I can shift my attention to this other part of it that I want to grow.
That's what I believe in for all of us. I don't think any of us are great multitaskers. I think you've got to have one goal that you're holding above all others to really get that thing done. So that makes so much sense. How do you, because I know you create a lot of content, how do you get yourself to do that?
Again, it's one of those things where I kind of, when I'm walking around, I'm commuting, just kind of like, ideas will come and I have an ongoing notes app in my phone and I just put ideas in there. And then I have an ongoing list for, I'm going to write about this right now. Or, I read quite a bit. And so if a quote or I read something that somebody says, I'm like, I'm going to take a picture of that and put it on something like a social media site later. Another way I create content is, as I mentioned earlier, like the themes that come out in sessions. I find myself in some weeks kind of having very similar conversations with a lot of my clients about, whatever is going on for them. So often there's a theme of self-compassion or self-love. So I will kind of think of something that might help with that, or, negative thinking patterns, that negative self-talk. And so how do we kind of, love that part of ourselves too? So I think, kind of That's probably one of my favorite ways, is kind of paying attention to like what was poignant this week. And it was kind of a thread that connected a lot of my clients.
Mm. And it seems like it's such a great combination between being inspired by what's happening in sessions and just jotting them down when it feels right, and then having discipline around like, all right, now it's time to sit down and write, and you've got your list of, things that you've been writing down in your app. Will you join me for a listener question, Olga?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so I'm really curious what your answer will be to this.
Okay.
Listener question.
What cancellation policy do you recommend?
I can tell you the one I use.
There we go.
So I have a 24-hour cancellation policy, and 24 hours includes, Sunday for Monday clients. So it's not like a Friday to Monday. I give my client, like, stuff happens on the weekend. They may not show up. I'm very strict about it. So I don't make any exceptions for, illness or something comes up, etc. And my clients know that. I've made one exception where a client was hospitalized for a mental health related thing, and I did not charge her for missing that session. And that's been the only exception I've made.
This is so interesting because I usually think a 24-hour cancellation policy doesn't work for a lot of therapists. But hearing you talk about it, I think that's because if you're going to have a 24-hour cancellation policy, you probably do need to really stick to it in order for it to work for you. Because it's not like within 24 hours, you're likely to be able to book that session with somebody else. But I think probably it's just clarifying for me that it's probably more about adherence that the problem can come up. My policy is 72 hours.
Okay.
And then I know, and there's no one right answer to this. I know that some people find that it really works for them to have a policy where a client can miss a certain number of sessions in a year.
Right.
And then they'll be charged no matter what beyond those. And I actually worked with a therapist who did that, and that worked fine for me as a client. But then when I tried it as a therapist, it didn't feel like the right fit for me. Mostly because I needed a little more flexibility than that. But yeah, so I think it's really looking at what are your needs around cancellation. And if you're having a lot of kind of leakage in your practice that way, looking at how to stop that from happening. And then, like Olga said, just really, once you have a policy and you feel good about it, just stick to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of if I have just one other thought about that. Like, I think what it comes back to for me and my experience in this whole how do you run your therapy practice is, there's so many, like you said, there's no one right way. And there's, in any of this really. And so what's been really important to me is, getting lots of feedback from different people, and then kind of letting all that marinate and checking in with what feels true for me and what works for me. Like kind of hearing you say that, this worked for you as a client, but not as a practitioner. And I know people that have all the different kinds of cancellation policies that you mentioned, and, it works for some, not for others. I had a therapist who had a 48-hour cancellation policy, and that bugged me because I was like, but like I'm fine 2 days ago and something comes up today, and then I have to either show up or, pay for canceling. So I think it fits. I think it's that, like, how does it align with our personal values too?
Yeah. And exploring. So for the person who wrote the question, explore all of these and look at what's going to fit my financial needs, and then what's going to fit my values and what works for me and for the type of therapy that I do. Like, for example, if you do short-term work, it's not going to work for you to do a 4 times a year cancellation.
Right.
You're going to lose a lot of money that way, potentially. I think one thing that I've noticed about you, Olga, over the years is that there's a way that you seem really to feel grounded in the way that you run your practice. You seem more than a lot of therapists you seem to feel like you've thought this through. This is working for you and, pretty at peace with it. Would you say that's true?
I think so. I definitely have my moments. But yeah, I think having, support in my life, and I think having a mindfulness meditation practice helps. And I think this piece of, that's what I wanted to say about the feast too, is that I'm more and more coming back to, it doesn't all have to happen right now. And it doesn't all have to be the same way for my whole entire career.
Nice. And if you were to time travel back to
fun
time travel.
Like anywhere, anytime.
If you were to time travel back to the beginning of your private practice, what advice would you have for yourself?
I think, just to have patience, to work hard and have patience. I think I was working hard, but the patience part was really hard for me. So I think just, and having, trust and faith, as we were talking about earlier, that this working hard and being passionate and connected to, what I want to do does pay off, and I will be successful.
Right on. And you would have been right. That's great. So where can people find you and throw compliments at you?
Oh, well, that's nice. So they can find me on my website, olgarocklin.com. On Facebook, Olga Rocklin Psychotherapy. I have a page you can follow, and I post things on there. Twitter is at Olga_SF_therapy. And Instagram is OlgaRocklin_LMFT.
Perfect. I'm going to have all that in the show notes too.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Olga.
You're welcome. Thank you. This was fun.
Here's an idea to try.
Idea to try.
Look at your cancellation policy. Is there any cleaning up there to do? Assess how much income you think you're losing to cancellations and decide whether your policy needs an adjustment. And then once you decide what you want your policy to be, get ready to stick with it. Practice talking about your cancellation policy with a friend or a colleague so that when you talk about it with your clients, you can feel comfortable holding it. Thanks for listening to Therapist Clubhouse. Go check out my free trainings right now. My 30-day challenge to create a stronger referral network is a great place to start. Just go to coachingwithannie.com and click on free trainings. I'm going to edit out the